Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Travel Mug Podcast. I'm joined as always by Jen to bring you the show. How are you today?
I am doing well. I am excited to dive into this topic, actually.
I know, me as well. It's something
Yeah.
we probably have maybe touched on in a couple of episodes very briefly,
Yeah.
but nothing this in depth. So, we had a listener reach out a while back and bring this topic to us, and we thought it was one worth exploring a little bit more deeply because we're fairly certain that this might be something that most of us, or at least some of us, have experienced, and that is travel day anxiety. I do want to say I did ask Peter about this, if this is something like he experiences. He's never mentioned it, but I'm like, maybe he keeps it to himself. What do I know? And he said no. He said
Mm,
he is anxious to get on with the trip, of course, but not
yeah.
anxious about the logistics or forgetting anything. So there are certainly people out there, of course, who don't experience this, but that's always really good to know too, because we don't want everybody out there being anxious.
That's fair. Yes, us anxious people need people who are not anxious.
Exactly, exactly. Now, travel to anxiety, what is it? Why do we get it? And how can we combat these intrusive feelings that, can get in the way of actually enjoying our trip? And I think one thing we can agree on is that travel to anxiety is likely at least a bit different for everyone, as we all seem to have different things to worry about. So before we get into the general causes, I would say for me personally, any travel anxiety I sometimes experience usually comes before I check into our flight. I don't know
Mm.
what it is about checking in 24 hours early, but the lead up to it, it's not like I'm like, am I scared my computer is not going to work? Like I don't, I don't even know what the problem is, but once that is done, I instantly feel better. If it's an early morning flight, I do of course worry about oversleeping. We have like
Mm.
7 alarms set, I think.
Yeah.
If it is a daytime flight, I sometimes worry if there might be an issue like on the highway getting to the airport that could slow us down. And also, of course, forgetting something important such as a passport or a medication. And it is interesting that Peter does not have travel day anxiety because he did forget his passport once. But thankfully, we only live like 30 minutes from the airport. So we were easily able to come home and get it, but it didn't affect him. Like, bless his heart.
Like how?
I don't know. He let it go, I guess. Is this something that you experienced, Jen? And if so, like, what are some of your, if you don't mind sharing, some of your travel day anxieties, if you do have any?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think that if anyone listened to our do's and don'ts airplane etiquette episode, they know that, yes, Jen does suffer from travel day anxiety because, like, listen to her. Anyway,
Is this gonna be another free therapy session for
well,
you?
let's just, yeah, I'm just going to just send this recording right over. Anyway, the first time I remember having travel day anxiety or like anxiety about travel was the first time that I flew by myself, which I think is probably normal-ish. I was so anxious about like not knowing where to go or like what to do or getting lost. And this was back in 2012. So I wasn't as well traveled as I am now. And I will say that I still do get anxiety when I'm flying by myself, but so far I've been fine. So that's nice. I do also get anxious about the things that you mentioned too, like not being able to get to the airport on time and like forgetting those important things. But I think I just get like general like anxiety
Yeah.
about like, doing something different than I usually do in my day to day.
Yeah, like, just like the travel jitters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. And in doing research for the episode, we found some general travel day anxieties could stem from a lot of things, including flying, or if it's a road trip, of course, the drive itself, forgetting stuff, the trip itself. I mean, just the overall arching thought of all the things that you're going to do, traveling somewhere new, and you're anxious about what to expect and what you will experience, potentially bad weather, getting
Mhm.
sick while traveling, what to pack, or have you packed the right clothes or enough clothes, too little clothes, begging too many
Mm.
clothes, and a variety of other causes. So let's dive into these a bit deeper and some strategies to deal with them.
Yeah. Before we dive in, we do want to mention we are not therapists, we are not mental health professionals. And some of these are worth discussing with professionals. And so we're just going to share our personal experiences and like some like coping tools that we use to help ourselves and maybe this will inspire you to kind of help yourself or to find someone to talk to.
I love that.
Yeah. All right. So, let's start with like general something bad might happen. Cause like, that's me.
What can go wrong?
A flight or a road trip can cause anxiety because you're just worried about like literally something bad happening, like construction or accidents or like claustrophobia of being stuck on a plane or a train or whatever. Or maybe you like heard a story recently or read about something that happened on a flight or a road trip, and now you're worried about something happening to you. And so, like, what can we do? And for me, our phones are basically like bad news machines, right? Like, how often are you getting really good news on your phone?
What I would give it to go back to a flip phone, who knew that a flip phone is where it's at? Like, that's where the peace
Wow.
lies.
Not literally. So, like, we're constantly reading about scary things that are happening around the world. So, limiting what you read might be helpful. So, like, for instance, probably don't read an article about like the 10 worst plane crashes in the world before you get on a plane. Like, no one needs that.
No.
So, I like to remind myself to control the controllables. We leave a little bit earlier than necessary to get to the airport. The last couple of times we've actually stayed at the airport hotel the night before. So in the morning, you just get up and walk into the airport. Leave yourself some buffer time. So just in case there is an accident or like a really long line at security or check in, that you have that time and you don't have to stress about it.
Yeah, I really like that. And making for me, and this is the same if I'm cranky or irritable or anything, make sure you don't keep your anxieties to yourself. Talk to someone. And I don't necessarily even mean a therapist, especially if you're right about to travel. But what I mean by
Oh,
talk to someone is just like say it out loud to your partner or call a friend if you're on your way to the airport or at the
yeah.
airport. You often feel better once you say it out loud.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's talk about something I know we've discussed, but this one is also one of that isn't so much a travel day anxiety, but leading up to the day, and that is packing. So,
Mhm.
traveling is a privilege, and to be able to go somewhere, I always feel lucky. So, don't get me wrong, but my goodness, I hate packing. We have talked about my struggles for packing on the podcast before, but I think underpacking would also cause me a lot of anxiety because I know we all know I overpack. But
Mhm.
if I tried to, like, do a rehaul of my packing methods and underpacked, that would also cause me anxiety. So
Mhm.
I can't know what I wanna wear in the future, and that's my whole problem. I like choices, and who doesn't? But I like them too much, I guess, and I also
Mhm.
know that feeling, that you've brought the right clothes, and this I think could happen to a lot of people, like,
Yeah.
not just the right quantities, but for the right weather is also something that I do think is more of a general anxiety when it comes to packing because yes, you can look forward to the weather forecast, but in this world especially, we can't predict that. So, is this something that you've ever experienced?
No, I don't think so. Like, I think, like, a packing list is super helpful for me, and, PS, did you know that we have a packing list that you can download? It's in the link in the show notes, but, it's really funny you mentioned this because my stepmom was an overpacker, and I remember one time helping her pack. They were going, down south to, like, a resort all-inclusive for a week. And I was helping her pack, and she packed, like, 4 plain white T-shirts, and I was like, "Do you need 4 plain white T-shirts?" And she was like, "No, maybe not." So I think she brought 2, and then she came home a week later, and she was like, "I wanted all 4 of those T-shirts. I am so mad." And I was like, okay, I will never help you pack again."
Okay, what did I know about the white t-shirts?
Ooh, yeah. I personally wouldn't have packed 4 white T-shirts for a week, but some people do. So, people do what they do. Uh,
It's true.
Megan, is there anything you can do to, like, ease your anxiety, or do you kinda just have to, like, live with it?
I mean, dude, at some point, I just need to zip the suitcase and trust myself and like get on with my life. So I just
Yeah.
eventually do. And I do also realize, even though it does not appear the way I talk about it, that I can buy most basic things where I am going.
Yeah.
So it's something definitely to keep in mind. And I definitely use a list. It's very key for me. So,
Mhm.
not that it helps, but I use a list. All right. What's up next?
All right. So, kind of on the same theme is like forgetting things. So, what if you forgot some like medication or something that you can't purchase wherever you're going? And I mean, a lot of times you can purchase what you need, not always, but like in a lot of cases. And, there are some things that you simply cannot buy, and the fear of forgetting those things is very real. And, I'm always paranoid about forgetting my passport and not being able to get on a plane. So, what can we do besides checking for our passport and medications every 5 seconds? Which yeah, are you one of those people that's like, you have to just keep laying eyes on your passport
Oh,
when you're
yeah.
at the airport? You're just like, "Yep, still there. Yep, still."
100%. And even
Yeah.
before we leave the apartment, we do it. And then Peter's question, even though it's never not the case, he's like, "Is it my most recent passport?" Of course it is. No one has no passport elf has gone into the night and switched out passports. Like, yes, it's the new one. Anyway, go on.
It's not the one with holes in it, Peter. It's fine.
It never was. I don't understand.
So, I think a packing list comes in handy here
Yes.
too, and, like, I'm the type of person who, like, starts throwing things in a suitcase, a couple days before kind of thing, so, like, just putting those things in first kind of helps. I also have a travel wallet that holds our important things, so passport, Nexus cards, information on our travel insurance, etcetera. I find that helpful, so everything's together and you're like, "Okay, I have my travel wallet and it has everything in it."
Right. Everything in one place.
Yeah, Megan, what do you do? Do you have any tips to kind of help overcome this one?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, and I mentioned a few moments ago, for sure a list. And I don't start the list the day before traveling either. I don't leave packing and gathering important items to the last minute. That would increase my anxiety for sure. I like to have a buffer time. I
Yeah,
even pack a bit early so that you won't believe me, so that I could take things out if I feel like, yes, you've gone overboard,
yeah.
or add those back in a few days before departure. I also put my suitcase and my carry-on backpack in another room, so not our bedroom, but my office, so that if I do have any important items that I can pack early, I can get them in the suitcase or the bag and scratch it off the list. And this does include passports and foreign currency, which I won't need in advance of travel. Like those things can
Yeah.
go in at any time. I'm not going to need them at home. So I do try to put those items in as soon as possible so that I know they're there. And yes, I still check 15 times, but at least I know
Yeah.
where to look.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but I pack my clothes like literally at the last minute. Uh
Oh my
which
gosh.
is
Well,
I
how but I guess friendships are really about being, different so that you each add something to the relationship.
I guess so. Yeah, no, I literally like I put things aside, like my passport and like important things, but clothes are literally like the last thing that I
Yeah.
gather. And it's like, our last trip, I think I packed my clothes like, a couple hours before we left
Oh
for
my
the airport
gosh.
hotel.
I would simply pass away.
Yeah.
Like, that I mean, it's admirable because I wish I had that kind of, ability to just be like, "Sure, let's pack it now," but no, I'm like a week out and I'm like, "What will I wear on day
Yeah.
8?" Well, good for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's something.
Well, it leads very well to our next topic, which is the unknown, because that would be definitely the unknown for me right there, is doing something like that.
Yeah.
However, maybe this is your first big trip or a trip to a new destination. And while you are excited, that doesn't mean you aren't also anxious or nervous about what is coming up, what you'll experience. What if you aren't prepared for it? What have you not thought of about this destination? So going somewhere is truly the unknown, no matter how much research you have done. And the anticipatory anxiety of that can be very real.
Yeah. Yes. For me, the line between excited and anxious is very, very blurred. I experience both at the same time. I always look forward to a trip, but I'm often slightly worried too. And I have to keep reminding myself that I'm capable of figuring things out. And also I have the internet to most of the time, to figure things out. And a lot of times I'm traveling with a partner who can also help figure things
Right. You're not doing
out.
it alone.
Yeah, and even if you are solo traveling, there are people who will help you who like work at an airport or a train station or whatever. So likely all you have to do is ask someone, but it is really hard like to go somewhere new. And you're right, no matter how much like research you've done, you're not going to be like truly prepared, so you kind of just have to jump in.
You do. And there really is no alternative. And for me, I'm very similar. It is excitement tinged with anxiety of the unknown for sure, but I try to thrive off that as much as possible. That's what
Mhm.
really traveling is for. And that's what traveling is. And honestly, this one for me is just a lot of self-talk. So yes,
Yeah.
I'm anxious, but also how cool is this, somewhere new going to be? So this
Yeah.
one thankfully doesn't get me too much as long as I have the right conversations with myself that of course you're anxious about the unknown, but much like you, I'm never usually by myself and there's people around where
Yeah.
the airport, the train station, the street, the
Yeah.
someone will help you.
Yeah, literally.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Now, you mentioned earlier about controlling the controllables, and this next one is not something that we control, unfortunately, and that is the weather. So I
Mhm.
know for me, when we travel south in the winter, weather always concerns me, not weather in my destination, but instead weather in Nova Scotia that might prevent me from even leaving for my trip. But again, why I let this bother me, I don't know. And also, a concern for us in this part of the world now in summer through November is actually hurricane season. And throughout the world, especially with the changing weather patterns, it often feels like you can never be sure of what Mother Nature will serve up. So I do try to let this one go as much as possible. I talk to Peter about it a lot because he's sort of like, what can we do? So
Yeah.
that helps as well. So, yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts around this one?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, we can't control the weather, we know that. In the winter, like, I try to book nonstop flights to avoid running into bad weather in multiple destinations at least, but honestly, like, there's really not much you can do. If there is bad weather forecasted leading up to your trip, some airlines have started letting people change their flights free of charge to avoid the weather, which is a great option to have. We did that with a hurricane forecasted 2 years ago when we went to
Yes.
Boston. Yeah, we moved our flight up a day and we likely would have been fine on our original flight, but you don't know that. And it was nice to have that option. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. I wish we controlled the weather, obviously, but
Exactly, but we wouldn't be sitting here having to do a podcast or our regular day jobs if we controlled the weather. We would be well off living elsewhere.
that's true. Yes, somewhere nice and warm and sunny most of the time.
That's right.
Uh,
Where the
I just
weather could be predictable.
Yes. All right. So the next one is getting sick. And I'll be honest and say that this is one of my biggest sources of anxiety I have around travel. I mean, the pandemic feels, COVID feels like forever ago and also yesterday. And, we all remember probably our first trip, that you're doing during the pandemic and worrying about getting sick or being sick. And then not being able to travel and what that could mean. And I think that a lot of people that worry has tamed down a lot. But I mean, we can all get sick. No one wants to be sick while you're traveling, no matter if it's COVID or the flu or a cold or whatever. So for me, the anxiety tends to come like leading up to the trip that I'm like, oh no, I hope I don't get sick before I leave and like ruin the trip. And also I hope I don't get sick from being on the plane and et cetera, et cetera. So I try to pack a lot of hand sanitizer and I do sometimes still wear a mask on the plane or in crowded places. And then I have to like just remind myself that sometimes no matter what we do, we get sick and like you're
Yeah.
just gonna have to adjust. Like you're human. Also, having travel insurance in place in case something does happen can be a huge weight off your shoulders, and making sure you know the local emergency number. And then also packing medications. For me, it's anti diarrhea meds so that you don't have to go out and look for them when you need them because there's nothing worse.
That is not the time.
That is not the time. Nope. They're in my purse all the time.
Right.
Just everywhere I go, they come too.
It's good to know. Next time I'm with you, I'm like, if I get the diarrhea, Jen's got me
Listen,
covered.
I'm ready. They're like the dissolvable ones. You put them on your tongue and you're good to go.
I love this about you. I love having
Yeah.
prepared friends. Wonderful. For me, I have gotten sick while traveling.
Yeah.
And before I did, though, didn't worry about it at all. I was living my life carefree. What did I know? So now, as we've likely discussed before, I do have a specific medicine kit for a lot of what ifs, although I realize no one can prepare for everything, but I have the basics and also my daily medication that I take regularly anyway. And it somehow makes me feel better. Just if I hope to never need it, but if it's there, much like your diarrhea
Mhm.
medication, you know you have it.
Yeah, you're prepared.
You
Yeah.
are. And yes, travel insurance for the bigger stuff that could, but hopefully won't happen. My goodness, I can't imagine traveling without travel insurance. I'm in a travel group now for our next trip, and someone actually posted in it that, where's it's a very helpful group. And they're, I'm here now. Where's the closest hospital? And I don't have travel insurance. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like, how have we gotten to this point where anyone has the money to travel, but isn't thinking of spending the money on the insurance to save yourself huge down the road? So please, people, if
Right.
you take anything away from this episode, get your travel insurance.
Please, please, please,
Yeah,
please. Yeah. So, to finish up this episode, I thought that it would be helpful to share a few tips that we found from the Canadian Mental Health Association and Ohio State University. Thought these were just like really good tips. So, the first one was to maintain a healthy sleep schedule, both before, during your trip, to kind of just diminish stress and stay healthy. The second one is don't skip self-care activities leading up to travel. Obviously, like it is a very stressful time, especially if you're working and trying to like get ready for a trip, but keeping up with your exercise routine, if that's something you do, like meditating, having a bath, just like letting yourself chill out and then being mindful about how you're feeling. And this is more on the trip. Like, don't be afraid to take breaks from planned activities if you need to recharge. Don't be afraid to abandon something that you were going to do that you're just like not feeling up to. And then our last one is like, yeah, like we've said in the beginning, don't be afraid to reach out for professional help. Like, travel is supposed to be a great experience. And if it's becoming more stressful than fun, then maybe it's time to talk to someone.
definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode. Don't forget there are resources in the show notes, including a link to our packing list. You can always find us on Facebook and Instagram at Travel Mug Podcast and on our website, travelmugpodcast.com. If you like the show, we'd be super appreciative if you left us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or support the show through Buy Me a Coffee. And until next time, bye.
Bye, everyone.